Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I wanted to do a walkthrough of all of the new map locations in Fortnite Season 6. We're going to start off with the super obvious one that is in the trailer and is now iconic and synonymous with the map, which is the floating island, as it's called, whatever's left of Loot Lake. You can see the cube, as it were dissolved, has now come back together and is pushing up the small house in the middle of Loot Lake. Some pro tips about this area that I think that you will find very important is that the best loot actually spawns on the bottom, which is why I'm showing a little bit of the loot trail around here. A lot of people like to land on top. Top is just guaranteed death. All of the best loot is down here on the bottom. It's way smarter to land at the bottom, pick some of this stuff up, and then go in the vortex to go up. Speaking of vortex, the tornado in the middle is how you get to the top. You walk in and it immediately puts you into parachuting mode, and you can use it to kind of just fly around the entire area. Now, if you do touch the cube, it's going to bounce you off, and if somebody shoots the cube, it's still going to zap you, so you can kill parachuters pretty easily through that. You can also press space to deploy your glider at any given time, or simply slide out of the tornado. It's very, very straightforward. One of the more important things to keep in mind that I'm going to reiterate again is that the house hasn't changed a whole lot. The house itself is relatively loot-free, just one or two chests, nothing super amazing. If you are going to land up top, I strongly recommend you work around the edges and pick up the numerous chests that spawn out here. Lots of unusual items, too. Apparently in the lake there is a dinosaur, a brontosaurus head, kind of like one of the other ones out there in the desert, and I'm not sure why that was under the house or if it has any story significance, but it's strange. There's the tail to the dinosaur, and there's lots of pipes and old trees and sunken cars. But speaking of dinosaurs in particular, there are literal dinosaur bones underneath the house, or this one dinosaur bone. I guess dragons finally did come to Fortnite, if you want to look at it that way. Moving along, I do have some pro tips for you about how to get off. A lot of people are very timid and they don't know how to get down. You just jump off the edge into the tornado and it activates anything that you need, your parachuting mode. The other important thing to keep in mind is that if you keep your parachute open, while you're in the tornado, it flings you up really, really high. You can use this to get extra distance if you want to go to a different place in the map, if you want to get elevation to just fly out to the Dumbhead or toward Dusty. But what I tend to like to do this, or to use this for, is to go down to the very, very center, and I'm going to deploy my parachute kind of last minute at the edge of the hurricane, or at least make sure that I ride it up and get that momentum going up. And then you can put yourself on top of the house. If you're going to assault the house, which you will have to, that's by far the smartest way to do it. Just keep your upward momentum going. One of the other changes to the maps that I'm sure many of you have seen is these corrupted areas where the low grav zones once were. The cubes, or not the cubes, the runes have activated on the ground, so you can see them. There's usually between 1 and 3 chests in these areas. And the giant items here, unfortunately, aren't steel. I thought they were going to be meteor steel. They're just regular old rocks. And there are 6 or 7 of them around the map. You can see the one in Wailing Woods, south of Retail, the one north of Fatal Fields, and the Dead Zone by Shifty Shafts. There's just a ton of these things. So they'll be around. They do spawn shadow stones, which unfortunately have been disabled. But the next thing I want to talk about is the one you saw on the thumbnail, the 3 Little Pigs Easter egg. If you come outside to the back end of Paradise Palms, you find this very small wood shack with a chest in it, just big enough for one little piggy to live in. Outside of Greasy Grove, there is a small brick shack that you can see inside of. These almost always have chests and decent items for how small and out of the way they are. And since we have a werewolf skin and a Red Riding Hood skin, this is another wolf joke because it's the 3 little piggies that built straw, wood, and then brick respectively. But in Fortnite, that's going to be wood, stone, and then steel. In my experience landing at these houses, the steel one tends to have the best loot overall. I guess it's the best protected house, so that little pig can store stuff up before the wolf comes and blows it down. But these are kind of neat, worth landing at, and very cute in a way. I think the most massive change to the map may not have been Loot Lake, but is instead here at Wailing Woods. Wailing Woods now has 3 or 4 houses in it, and each one of them is kind of a creepy, spooky cabin in the woods a la The Evil Dead. That one has apples for some reason if you need to get the health back. But like The Evil Dead, and kind of like Cabin in the Woods, the movie, the secret is underneath. When you come down here, it may not look like there's a whole lot going on, but every single one, there's a spooky mirror, yeah, every single one of these houses does have an underground bunker basement entrance, often with more loot, And unfortunately, there's not like a train of bunkers down here. I thought that'd be really neat. I don't think they put them in the map because they didn't want people hiding and just kind of waiting out the storm. There's a really big one to the north. The biggest cabin that's been added to Wailing Woods is on the north end, and if you don't want to land in the maze, this is where you want to go. I'm in playground mode, so every chest is active, but in general, the loot is very good at these places. These are equivalent to Lonely Lodge, if not better. The lodge itself, that is. And again, each one of them has a neat Easter egg. So I'm going to head down to the basement and show you what this particular house is working with, because this one kind of tripped me out. You're going to watch me discover something while I'm filming. Most of them are hidden in some way. You break a chest of drawers or something, and I came down here and found the tunnel, but then I noticed there were also some stairs which lead up to a part of the house that doesn't have any doors, and that's not a door I've ever seen. I couldn't open it. Nope, it just goes back up to the bedroom, which is shocking. Now, as shocking as that is, the maze has had a big overhaul. You may notice this barbed wire fence that goes all the way around the maze. I guess you can harvest a bit of steel here is all it means. There's way less loot in the maze itself. Well, there's no maze. It's just a row of hedges to keep people out, I suppose. I imagine these being like sticker bushes that old ladies put around the houses. And you'll notice the grass isn't normal. That's actually a roof that's been painted green because there's a huge underground basement in Wailing Woods, and this thing is just enormous with loads of loot. So of course we're going to be going down here, and it has a nice escape route that we will talk about in a minute, but this is probably on par with the villain's lair, which we'll be taking a look at. That's changed as well. Lots of kind of old 50s command centers, control centers, TVs, chalkboards. There's a storage room for all the cabins, as if a whole bunch of preppers live in Wailing Woods and they're kind of preparing for the end times. Kind of funny story, when you come in here, you see the old dusty depot, pre-meteor impact, completely undestroyed and still intact. Somebody was a big Dusty Depot fan living in this house. Just loads of stuff. You can walk around all over this place. There's just 50 pots sitting there. More sciencey stuff on this room. I'm trying to show you the whole area, even though it does get a little bit repetitive, kind of like the villain and hero layers. The cool part of this, in my opinion, is down below and on this side. When you come to this room, you find yet another control panel, but you'll notice that whoever is running this bunker is studying the rifts, or perhaps they've generated one. They've got this big 1950s ray gun kind of contraption, Frankenstein thing hanging down, pointing at a rift, and that is your easy ticket out should you be afraid to get stuck down here or somebody's going to push you. Now, a very important note is that not all of the floor is breakable. Some of this is part of the map. You cannot go through that. So if you wanted to do something like use an impulse grenade to break out, you're going to need to be very mindful of where the floor is so that when you throw, you'll actually bust through instead of just hitting one of the indestructible areas of the map and getting stuck. The other question that I get asked a lot is, what about the bunker in Wailing Woods? What about the bunker in the back of the Wailing Woods? We're going to show that next, but I did want to show what happens when I throw the spiky stadium on top of this. Essentially, it just glitches everything out, and it's a huge mess. I am not sure this is supposed to happen. It seems to have just destroyed everything and then added more stadium underground, and it's it's a little bit chaotic. That probably wasn't one of their intended interactions. So the bunker over here is still there, but the underneath of it has changed a little bit. There used to just be kind of like a dead, empty floor, but now if you look closely, you'll see that there's a little bit of space underneath. I can't break through, I can't theater mode through, I can't even throw anything down there. It's a solid object. But it's there, and it's doing bunker things. I guess somebody will figure out the meaning of that eventually. Nearing the end of the video, we do, of course, have the haunted castle that spawned north of Pleasant Park, just like all the leaks said it would. I decided to hit a rift to show you how it looks from above, because it looks cooler above than just about anywhere else. Above is just the best looking part of the haunted castle. And it's kind of designed to be haunted looking, like I think it's supposed to be like Dracula's castle, like a vampire castle. There's all these bat statues, and there's a very extensive crypt when you go underneath. That's one of the parts of the castle that I don't think a lot of people focus on. They look for the rafts, not the rafts, the chests and the rafters and the big spires and stuff on top. But the crypt has a ton of loot down here. They have Dracula's old creepy throne, lots of bodies, just kind of lots of extra stuff to explore. Though one pro tip for you, the floor on the top is not completely stable. It is very, very easy to fall through the floor of the haunted castle. Now, next to last location, nope, we actually got 3 more to go. This one's kind of a neat one. They added a cornfield. I guess in Fortnite time, this farmer's been growing his grain all year round, and it is finally harvest time, which fits in with the Halloween and Thanksgiving harvest times. You can't shoot or blow up the corn with guns when you go in it. It obstructs your vision to a very, very extreme degree. There's a lot of loot and guns just kind of randomly laying about, but you won't see them. One thing I did learn, though, is that if you build, you can destroy the corn. So building destroys the corn pretty handedly. And of course, you can hit it with a pickaxe. So guns don't affect it, but building and pickaxes do, and it's super easy to sneak up on people and surprise them in the corn. There is a Halloween shop added to Retail Row. Now you'll notice I'm not in playground mode, so I'm going to be going through this one really quick. I'm actually doing like a regular loot here. The witch will make noise. A few of the items are interactable in a very minor way, and it kind of reminds me of the Spirit of Halloween store, which coincidentally carries a lot of Fortnite merchandise, and I wonder if there's any sort of strange co-branding. There is a battle bus on top. If you break in, you will find loot. In my case, I found a chug jug. And now, finally, the last location of the day, let's take a look at the brand new, or let's say less than new, Villain's Lair. I'd call it less than new because it's kind of old, it's dilapidated, it's corrupted, it's out of shape. Now, I have had some people describe this area as a corrupted area to me. I don't believe that's true at all. You'll see why in a little bit. I think it's just extremely dilapidated. It's boarded up, it's abandoned. The villains lost, the heroes won, the map changed, the whole game changed. I'm trying to see if that's a piece of wood back there behind it or not, but it's one solid object. Now, people were saying it's corrupted or evil just because the chests are stuck on the walls in this area. I think it's just a cute joke that they're stuck in the spider webs, more than anything. I don't think there's any big significance to that. But when you loot the new Villain's Lair, you do need to keep in mind that some of your chests are going to be on walls. And yes, I'm standing still right here because I'm posing for a thumbnail. I don't think that's the one I'm ultimately going to use for this video, but you can get a little insight into the mind of how a YouTuber works. Always got to be doing something for views, got to frame this angle, got to make it look good. It's kind of it's like seeing the world through a lens, like a filmmaker, but a very great value filmmaker, like a filmmaker you would hire at Dollar Tree. The missile launch area is once again indestructible. You can't go through it, you can't do anything. And finally, there is a little bit of chest in the front of the building. Guys, that is all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.